All right, the biggest wild card takeaways so far through the first 5 games of the postseason. We're going to go in chronological order if you are watching this after the fact. So obviously we're going to start with the Chargers and Texans from Saturday, and then Steelers Ravens, and then you get the point. As I am streaming this, the Commanders just defeated the Bucs for their first playoff win in nearly 20 years. I am ecstatic for Commanders fans, especially with their future with Jaden Daniels, and given that he just won his first playoff game, it's going to be, well, hopefully a very, very fun future for the Commanders and their fan base. So let me go ahead and move the screen over here, and I want to specifically pull up the wild card recap. I see a lot of fans, or a lot of people commenting about the fact that Todd Bowles has to go, and I don't entirely disagree. Now this is not an exaggeration. If you were watching this after the fact, this is probably about a minute and a half after the Commanders game, but tonight was a prime example as to why, whenever people ask why I'm limited on the Bucs every year, tonight was a prime example why. But we'll get to the Tampa and Commanders game in a minute. I want to specifically go in chronological order. So we're going to go ahead and discuss the Chargers and Texans game. Unfortunately, it has to start with Justin Herbert throwing 4 interceptions. Obviously, you guys probably know I'm a huge Justin Herbert fan. There's no excusing that. Now, I will say that we all can acknowledge the one Will Dissly interception was definitely not on Justin, which set Houston up for a possession deep in the Chargers territory. That wouldn't have changed how the game was played, and I think we can all acknowledge that. That was terrible. It was just a terrible game for the Chargers. Justin finished 14 of 32 for 242 yards, 1 touchdown, 4 picks. Had a 40.9 passer rating and 12 points on the road in the playoffs. Is not going to get it done. When Justin was not targeting Ladd McConkey, he was 5 of 18 for 45 yards with 3 interceptions, and receivers were credited for dropping 7 passes. That's not going to get it done. Whether you are Justin Herbert, whether you are Patrick Mahomes, that is not going to get it done. So there's a lot to discuss within the rest of Wild Card Weekend, but let's go ahead and do the Texans part real quick. They sacked Herbert 4 times. The defense stepped up in a big way. Shout out Will Anderson. Shout out Danielle Hunter. Shout out everybody on that defense. And also a big shout out to Kamari Lassiter. He was targeted 3 times in the wild card round. He allowed 0 receptions on 3 targets. He had an interception. He had a pass breakup. Justin Herbert's passer rating when targeting Kamari Lassiter was 0.0. There was a clip from Rex Ryan that it was the Texans not the Texans. It was the Chargers bye week. The Chargers bye week. That was disrespectful. Should have never been said. Shout out CJ Stroud, Joe Mixon, and Nico Collins with their backs against the wall. Especially Nico with no Stephon Diggs, no Tank Dell. He had to step up. He had over 120 yards. Great win for the Texans. Now they play the Chiefs next week. We'll get more into that in a minute. I am a little worried about that for the Texans next week, but we'll get more into that in a minute. Let's go ahead and go to let's go ahead and go to a couple comments here. Stingley, best corner in the league. Certainly, it's a very fair take. Good call here, Salty Wings and Avs fan. The dirty bubble cursed the Chargers. They were outscored 32-6 after the dirty bubble took Jim Harbaugh. That was on the Nickelodeon channel for anybody watching. Man, I feel like the Steelers are just going to run it back with Tomlin and Russ. Russ didn't play bad, but it's always been the same. I love your content, best football channel. I didn't know that the last part was in there before I read that comment, but I do appreciate that. And we are going to go ahead and go to the Steelers-Ravens game. Shout out Emma Noel. You look like Gizmo from Gremlins. I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing. It sounds like a bad thing, but I'm going to go and read that comment anyway. It sounds like a bad thing. But anyway, here we go. The Ravens eliminated their arch rival. They sent them to disarray. It was 21-0 at half. It was a brutal first half. They absolutely dominated the first half even without Zay Flowers. The first half graphic that came up at halftime, it was the Ravens had over 300 yards. The Steelers had 60. The Steelers only had 2 first half first downs. The Ravens ran for 299 yards to the Steelers' 29. That's obviously not going to get it done if you are Pittsburgh. Lamar played a great game, despite a lot of narratives heading into the game. The Ravens had 1 bad quarter, and they still won by 14. And for everybody that watched that game, I would imagine all of us watched that game, they nearly won by 21 points. And the end of that game, I feel like the Ravens definitely could have scored another touchdown if they wanted. Now, for the Steelers, guys, I'll be honest, we have a video coming out Wednesday. I've already started working on that. There's a lot to break down within that video. It's just a brutal situation. I don't know what the situation for Pittsburgh calls for, because you have to ask the question of, all right, we have Russell Wilson, we have Mike Tomlin, we have Arthur Smith. What do we do to get better? What do we do to take that next step? What do we do to win our first playoff game in what will be 9 years? TJ Watt will enter the 2025 season, year 9 in his NFL career, without a playoff win. What do we do to get over the hump? There is a lot to break down within that video, and we will certainly break it all down Wednesday. George Pickens, there was a post-game press conference clip where he said that we have progressed over the past couple of years since Matt Canada was his offensive coordinator, which I would hope they've progressed since then. But then the reporter followed it up and asked if you were optimistic about the future, to which George Pickens replied, nah. It's very ugly in Pittsburgh. Very, very ugly. Let's go ahead and address a couple of comments here, because again, we'll address a lot more comments here in a minute. I'm giving the general rundown, and then whenever I reply to comments, we will break down a lot more here in a little bit. But hopefully you guys are enjoying. If you are, please drop a like. Helps the stream tremendously. And as of now, we are on to Broncos Bills. So let's go ahead and go to Sunday. And like I said, we're going to break down a lot more of these games more in depth here in a minute. But for the Broncos Bills, to be honest, I thought it'd be closer. I didn't think that a couple of minutes heading into the game that 7 points would be all that Denver would score. I know it's frustrating for Broncos fans, but the future is incredibly bright. Bo Nix had a 33 total touchdown rookie season. There was a lot of adversity that the Broncos overcame this year. They have their quarterback of the future. They had several drops against the Bills, and unfortunately Buffalo had 31 unanswered points, and there's a big gap between where Denver is right now and getting to that next level, that Buffalo, that Baltimore, that Kansas City level. I know they almost beat the Chiefs earlier in the regular season, and then they beat them 38-0 with their backups. But in the postseason, when it matters, there's a bit of a talent gap. We saw that today, but I would like to think that this will probably be the worst supporting cast we'll see from Bo Nix in his hopefully entire career. So there's a lot to look forward to for Denver, no matter how this game was played. I know they lost by 24 points on the road. I know moral victories are not what people want to hear, but for a team that hadn't made the playoffs in almost a decade, that had double-digit wins, this was fine for Denver. This season, not the 31-7 part, but this year. It was a lot better than anybody could have ever imagined. I don't think anybody would have thought 33 total touchdowns would have happened heading into the year. Now, for Buffalo, 9-0 at home, and they have a very, very big game next week, one I really can't wait to see. They held Denver scoreless after the first drive, huge confidence booster moving forward. It was good to get James Cook going. He had 120 yards and a touchdown. The whoever offense was evident from a receiving standpoint. 5 players had 25 or more yards, and Buffalo did what good teams do, which is take advantage when the opportunity presents itself. Will Lutz doink off the upright. Buffalo took advantage, didn't look back. They're a great team year in and year out, and I really, really am looking forward to Ravens-Bills next week. And I will say that I think Buffalo and Baltimore, when they are playing at their peak, can each beat anybody. And next week's game is, I know it's only a 2-3 matchup, but it's one that Bills and Ravens fans are really looking forward to, because each fan's been pretty vocal on Twitter. They've been pretty loud about the other MVP candidate all year. So definitely what I'm looking forward to. Let's go to a couple comments here. Only Bo and the punter showed up. Unfortunate. I didn't think Bo played bad today. NFL playoff debut. I thought things could have went a lot worse for Bo, and I thought he played fine. I did not think the stage was too big for Bo. Now, for the Packers-Eagles, LaFleur's clock management drove me crazy. There was less than 7 minutes to play, and routinely, Matt LaFleur, this really drives me crazy when coaches do this. You're down multiple scores. This isn't a 20-17 game. This isn't a 3-point game. You're down multiple scores. Why Matt LaFleur and couldn't say on the headset to Jordan Love to hurry it up and to get the play going drove me insane in the final minutes of this game. And what also drove me insane was the fact that they were comfortable running the clock down with under 5 seconds every play, down 2 scores. That was, I would say, one of the summarizations of this game for Green Bay. It was also very sloppy play. There were bad turnovers from Green Bay in this game. Horrible way to finish the 2024 season offensively. Now, defensively, they were begging the offense to make a play. Jeff Hafley's defense absolutely showed up, and I feel bad for the defense with how this game was played. I mean, Jordan Love, 0 touchdowns, 3 picks, 41.5 passer rating. No call on Quinyon. I know Packers fans will want this brought up. To me, it really didn't matter. You shouldn't have been in that position to begin with. It was an all-around very ugly game outside of Josh Jacobs, who was one of the only few players to show up offensively for the Packers. Now, for the Eagles, certainly not a clean game by any means, and a win is a win in the playoffs. That is the bottom line that we will revert back to here a couple of times. The defense was spectacular. Quinyon, first interception of his career. Happy for him. Playoff win ceiling interception for Quinyon. Saquon Barkley, Offensive Player of the Year. The end certainly upset a lot of people with potential dollars. I'll just leave it at that. Now, the Birds were not as smooth offensively as they probably wanted, but I feel like that should have been expected with Jalen Hurts coming out of the concussion protocol and missing multiple games. A.J. Brown reading a book on the sideline was, I would say, iconic. I think A.J. Brown will definitely be back in the divisional round of the playoffs. A.J. Brown is, I don't worry about this at all. They're a dominant football team. They were 11-1 in the regular season since week 4, now 12-1. And you can argue that this game felt like a letdown for the Birds. And whenever you have a double-digit a double-digit playoff win, that would be a letdown. I think that shows really where the organization is. So I don't really worry about the Birds at all. I think this was kind of a get-right game. Not get-right game, but a tune-up game. They played really well defensively. I feel like, started to get a little bit going in the second half offensively. They're going to be fine. I don't worry about the Birds at all. Now, let's go and address a couple super chats. I saw you guys send them. I really appreciate it. David, who do you want the Vikings as quarterback next year? Who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl? Appreciate the super chat, David. First super on the stream. Appreciate it, David. And I personally, I hate to give you this answer, David, because it's going to depend on how Sam Darnold plays against the Rams. Obviously, you guys, well, for some of you guys who don't know, I am a Vikings fan. It's going to depend on how Sam Darnold plays against the Rams. If he plays like he did against the Lions, where it's the deer in headlights, where the stage is clearly too big, then J.J. McCarthy. Now, if Sam has 280 yards, 3 touchdowns, the Vikings win at 31-24, and then the Vikings go into the Link, and Sam Darnold has another good game, and they win in the Link against the Eagles, and they go to the NFC Championship game, plays another good game, Sam Darnold's the answer. But for now, right this particular second, I do not have an answer because the playoffs haven't been played, and I really need to see how Sam Darnold plays after a very bad game last week. Go Birds. Appreciate the super chat, Daniel. Happy for you. Really happy for you, Daniel. And it was a good 22-10 win. Andrew, appreciate the super chat. As a Texans fan, I'm so happy. Season was ugly, but at the end of the day, all that matters is playoff success and being set up for future playoff success, and you are 100% right with that. And good for the Texans. Truly good for the Texans. 32-12. And it wasn't just a 13-10 squeak out win that both teams played bad. CJ threw multiple picks. Herbert threw multiple picks, and they're destined to lose in Kansas City next week. Now, we'll preview next week as much as we can here in a second. But for Commanders-Bucks, I specifically want to pull up a couple of stats here. So we are going to pull up some stats from this game. I thought Mike Evans, Hall of Famer, making Hall of Fame plays really all night. I mean, Marshawn Lattimore, Mike Evans was a battle that a lot of us wanted to see, and Mike Evans won that battle more often than not. Now, the Commanders and Marshawn Lattimore ultimately came away with the win as Washington won 23-20. Jaden Daniels over 300 yards in his playoff debut, and 23-20, first playoff win in nearly 19 years. The thing is within this game, Washington did a really good job of keeping Tampa's offense off the field, and I thought Washington's defense did a really good job of simply keeping Tampa Bay out of the end zone. That was one of the biggest things. And one of the biggest turning points in this game was that miscommunication between Baker and Jalen McMillan, as that gave Washington the ball really deep in Tampa's territory. But for Washington to be able to reel in an offense in Tampa that had been clicking by every definition, and we went over this in the live stream a couple days ago, so I just want to pull this back up for anybody who may not know. Since Tampa's Week 11 bye, they had put up 26 or more points in every game except one. 2 now after tonight. So for Washington to step up with what I would consider is not the most talented roster that they're probably going to have over the next couple of years and win a playoff game, I'm ecstatic. I am ecstatic for the Commanders' future. Now, I know they're going to have to go to Detroit next week, and that's not an ideal matchup for anybody, but it's been a great year for Washington, and if you would have said 6 months ago that Jaden Daniels going to win the Offensive Rookie of the Year, more than likely, going to win a playoff game, going to have over 300 yards in a playoff game, nobody would have cared. It doesn't matter what happens next week for Washington because the foundation of their future was laid this year. And you also have to remember that, by the way, let's just get this out here. Jaden Daniels leading receivers tonight. Terry McLaurin, De'Ami Brown stepped up, by the way. 100% major credits where it's due with De'Ami Brown. But most of the year, it's been Olamide Zaccheaus. It's been Zach Ertz, who now is 34 years old. It's been Austin Eckler, who's also in year 8 at this point. It hasn't been a great supporting cast for Jaden Daniels by any means. And the offensive line has also done a really good job as well. So I am ecstatic for Jaden Daniels and the Commanders in their future. All right, let's go to a couple super chats here. AK, appreciate it. Appreciate it as always. In all my years of watching Packers playoffs, I've never seen the offense look so bad and the defense so good. It was mind-boggling to me how bad the Packers offense looked at times within the game today against the Eagles. I couldn't believe it. I watched the one Love interception, and I was writing down notes for the other games when that happened, and I was doing the classic. I'm typing down notes. I look up as the play gets snapped, and I just mouthed Jordan Love, "What the duck was that?" I'm with you, man. I'm with you. It was bad today for the Packers. The defense played their tails off. The defense deserved a win today. Edgerrin Cooper, I will stand by this, is a superstar in the making. Also, by the way, I know I'm going to forget several players, but Nakobe Dean, thoughts go out to Nakobe Dean and his family and everybody else that got hurt this weekend. Nakobe was injured, and you saw him on there was a photo of him on crutches after the game, so I definitely wish everybody the best. Now, there's a comment here from War Bronco. Commies Bucks was the best game of the wild card round out of the 5 games played, no doubt, 100% was. All right, Saber says, appreciate the super chat. The best part of the Commanders' W is that Dan Snyder doesn't get to enjoy any of it. God bless. I could not agree more. Dan Snyder is out. Josh Harris is in. It's a new era for Commanders fans. Whether you guys know this or not, I do live in Maryland, and I've seen it up close and personal for my entire life that Dan Snyder just sucked the energy out of the building for years. I am ecstatic for Commanders fans. I'm ecstatic for their fan base, and it is honestly because I'm in my mid to late 20s. It's hard for me to remember the last time the Washington franchise won a playoff game, which was all the way back in 2005, and also when I was like 7 years old, so I didn't really understand the magnitude of winning a playoff game when I was that young. So I am just ecstatic for Washington and their fan base. You guys, first playoff win in nearly 20 years. Talk your talk tomorrow. Don't really focus that you're playing a very good team in Detroit. Don't worry about that till the weekend. Enjoy the playoff win. Jaden Daniels looks like the answer. I'm ecstatic for Commanders fans. I am thoroughly ecstatic. James, appreciate the super chat. As a Packers fan, I am disappointed by the way the season ended. Not mad, just disappointed. Hopefully they learn from this. One of my concerns with the Packers right now is it's Matt LaFleur. The constant decisions, the play calling at times is also very suspect at times. The clock management is just one. Clock management from coaches is one that I cannot get behind, and just how frustrating it is all around for coaches, for NFL coaches. I mean, this isn't high school. This isn't, all right, we blew a chance at going to the state playoffs because our coach didn't know when to call the timeouts. It's weekly. And we're in the NFL playoffs now that we have to we have to see every single week of a coach did this, a coach did that. We saw it tonight with Todd Bowles. Todd Bowles routinely, I get asked a lot of why I'm limited on the Bucs. Bucs fans are passionate. They're a great fan base. They are very passionate fans. They love their Buccaneers. I get asked a lot, why am I limited on the Bucs? Why do I think they have a very limited ceiling, usually of a divisional round every year? And it's because the clock management is so frustrating with Todd Bowles, and it's something that is so easily fixable. I think Todd Bowles is one of the best defensive minds we have in football. I will go on record and say that. He is great from an X's and O's standpoint. There are not a lot of guys better than Todd Bowles, but every year it's something. And he almost blew it tonight in the first half with the way that was handled at the end. Thankfully, Mike Evans bailed him out. I mean, but the end was just, it wasn't pretty. And yeah, I get where you're coming from. As to James, to go back to your chat, I understand where you're coming from. All right, Packers are not allowed to hold in the playoffs. Let's see here. Jordan is, well, he's Jordan. No comment, but it was a 3-interception game from Jordan Love. 3-interception game from Jordan Love. As a fan of teams in the DMV, it was so refreshing and amazing to watch. Bobby Wagner, MVP of the game. Shout out, Bobby. Sleepy Gorilla, appreciate the super chat. Don't know if you talked about it, but is it time to move on from Herbert? And is it time for the Bucs to move on from Todd Bowles? Todd Bowles, I would say yes, because I think there's a better coach in the building in Liam Cohen. I think Liam Cohen is a really, really good coach. I mean, Baker Mayfield just threw for 41 touchdowns, and unfortunately for Baker, this is in a year where Lamar had a 41-4 TD to INT ratio. Josh Allen was Josh Allen. Joe Burrow had 43 touchdowns. Baker did not get a lot of love, and now with a wild card round exit, he's especially not going to get a lot of love. I mean, I just feel like with Todd Bowles, it's a decision and a discussion of, is this a decision that we're going to make eventually? And if it is yes, go ahead and make the decision now. And that's kind of how I felt about a couple of head coaches getting fired. I personally think the Jags should do that with Trent Baalke, but that's another discussion. Now, for Justin Herbert, I'm a Justin Herbert fan. I want to preface that with how I answer this, because Justin played bad against the Texans. Make zero mistake about that. I'm not shying away from that. But his receivers outside of Ladd McConkey were terrible. I mean, they were Quentin Johnston, Will Dissly. It was not a good receiving core. He was 5 of 18 for 45 yards with 3 picks, not targeting Ladd McConkey. I don't think it's time to move on from Justin Herbert. It's going to be a long offseason in terms of the Justin Herbert discussions, but I definitely don't think it's time to move on from Justin. Let's see. This is my first football analysis stream. Love your content so much. Appreciate that. Appreciate that, Zig. Appreciate that a lot. All right, let's keep going here. David, appreciate the super chat. And David says, if you were to pick the 3 most overrated players still in the playoffs, I'm actually 3 most overrated. Where? Oh, man. All right, let me think about how 3 most overrated. The thing is, it's going to be in the eye of the beholder, because there are some people that, let me think here from a receiving standpoint. There are some people that think, just give me a sec to actually think about this. I give me a rain check here for a minute, because I want to go back to this. And this is, I'll go back to this in a minute. I would say Cooper Kupp is probably one, because Cooper Kupp is a really good player, but I think some people think that he's still like a Triple Crown winner and that he could go for 200 yards in any given game. My team plays Cooper Kupp tomorrow, so this could age terribly. But I would say he's one depending on the person you ask. I think Cooper's a solid receiver at this point, but it's all in the eye of the beholder, all in the eye of the person asking. All right, Mitch is apparently spamming something. Let's see, we'll get all to this. We'll get to all the questions here. I'm convinced GP doesn't know what optimistic means. That comment was so weird. I would agree with that. That was just a weird one. Kelsey's got to be up there. That's probably a good one based on how Travis played this year. That's a good one there. That's a good one. Kelsey would be one at this point. He's still a good player, but he's not the best tight end in the league the way some people want to make him out to be. Still a very good player. Overrated. I'm not going to... I know some people will probably want me to say Jalen Hurts. I'm not going to, because Jalen's still coming off a concussion protocol, and he got a playoff win. Not going to say Jalen. I think Jalen's fine. I know some people would probably want that, though. Still in the playoffs. Kelsey would be up there, though, for sure. He would definitely be up there. All right, let's see here. Let's keep it rolling. Jalen Hurts is mid. Disagree. Mahomes, Kupp, and Kelsey. Darius Slay. He's an old corner, though. He's an old corner, so that's, All right. Let's see. Appreciate the super chat. Jesse, how do you think Penix is? I think Michael Penix is fine. I like Michael Penix a lot. I'm a big Penix believer. I think he's going to be fine. I think there was a lot of good flashes on tape in the final couple games that he played. I'm a big Penix believer heading into 2025. That's going to be my stance all offseason. I like him a lot. A lot. Zay Flowers would also be one because there's games where Zay is 125 yards. There's games where he's 2 catches, 17 yards. It's very hit or miss. All right. Mitch really wants the Raiders to get Ben Johnson. I'm sure Raiders fans do too. All right. Sleepy Gorilla, are you more confident in your Vikings or the Rams to beat the Eagles? I feel like the Vikings because we match up really well against them. The thing is Saquon's tough. Obviously, he's arguably the best running back in the league. Probably the best, him or Derrick Henry. But the rushing defense is really good, and they've been consistently good all year. Now, I don't think the Vikings would go into Philly and win, especially on a day less rest. But I think they would match up better than I think the Rams would. I don't think the Rams' secondary is all that great, and that would be a concern that I have for the Rams. But I think the Vikings would match up better. All right, let's see here. It means a lot to hear from non-Washington fans supporting us. It's been rough the last 20 years. Appreciate the content. Appreciate that. Key 88. Sup, Keys 88. Appreciate it. And I'm happy for Commanders. I am very happy for the Commanders. They deserve it, man. They really do. It's been a very, very long for them. Very long period for them. So I couldn't be happier for them. Let's go here. What's your thoughts on Lions versus Commanders? I mean, I'm going to go with Detroit to win. I am going to go with Detroit to win that game. They are a unit offensively, and no matter what, it's been an extremely successful season for the Commanders. And Jaden Daniels and Cliff Kingsbury and Terry McLaurin, but it should be a good game. Should be a pretty good high-scoring game. All right, every play, I pray Jaden Daniels doesn't get his body snapped in half. That's going to be one thing entering 2025 we're going to have the discussion about is Jaden Daniels protecting his body. Zion McCollum got him good on the sideline tonight, where after the play I was a little concerned. Jaden popped right back up, but I was definitely concerned. That's definitely something to note. In 2025. I missed a super chat from Kenton Toshi. I did. Where? Apologies. Did I actually? I'm going to scroll all the way back up. I can't believe I did. There it is. You're right. Sorry. Kenson Toshi, appreciate the super chat. As a Saints fan, watching how Lattimore played Evans proved we made a good trade before his trade value showed. You know what? I have criticized Mickey Loomis a lot on the channel. I have criticized Mickey Loomis countless times, but you're right. You are 100% right. Based on how Marshawn Lattimore is playing at this point in his career and based on how he played tonight against Mike Evans, credit where it's due, and hopefully for Saints fans' sake, this is the start of a 4-year overdue rebuild. Hopefully that's the start. But you're 100% right, and appreciate that who let me know that I missed that super chat. I'm very glad that you let me know about that. Very glad. Go Birds, says Tyon. What else do we have here? As an Eagles fan, I'm happy for Ertz, but already sick of the commies. You might play him in the NFC Championship game. We'll see. Todd Bowles out, says Michael. That would be crazy if he was already gone. I just don't think Todd Bowles is the long-term guy. Schefter tweeted the divisional weekend schedule. The Vikings/Rams at Eagles will be Sunday at 3:00. Saturday we have Texans at Chiefs at 4:30. We have Commanders Lions Saturday at 8:00, and then like we said, the winner of the Vikings Rams at Eagles, Philly 3:00, and then Ravens Bills 6:30. And by the way, we will be live immediately after the Ravens Bills game, which I am very, very much looking forward to. All right. Sleepy Grill, another super chat, appreciate it. Scenario, appreciate the super chat. Sam Darnold plays good and gets the Vikings to the NFC Championship game. Would you want to trade him for draft capital or start and keep JJ bench? In that scenario, definitely franchise tag, bring him back next year. Definitely run it back. But he has to play well. That's the big thing. It can't be mediocre and then the defense carries. He has to play well. He definitely has to play well. Now, I do want to go to, go back to a couple games for anybody who just may now be joining. Chargers, Texans. Justin Herbert, unfortunate stinker. That was the main takeaway. Shout out the Texans defense. Big time. Shout out the defense and D'Amico Ryans. D'Amico Ryans, I feel like, gets a little underappreciated as a defensive mind, but he called a great game. He's a great head coach. The Texans are definitely underrated heading into that game. Now, if you guys are enjoying, please drop a like. Helps the stream tremendously. Appreciate everyone being in here. And let's keep it rolling here. All right, we have a super chat from Sladorv. He says, kind of sucks the Packers lost to the Eagles. Appreciate the super chat, by the way they did. I'm hoping now the Bills make it to the Super Bowl and win. There'd be a lot of people thrilled with Josh Allen getting a ring and finally winning the big game. I would be one of them. Josh Allen or Lamar gets a ring this year, I'm thrilled. I would also argue, it does stink for the Packers they lost to the Eagles the way they did, because it was a continuation of how their regular season ended. And they lost to the Bears in Week 18, their first time losing to them this decade. They lost to the Vikings the week before, and it was just a not good end of the year for the Packers all around. And I want to pull up specifically their last several games because they played the Saints in there at one point and they absolutely destroyed the Saints, but that was the Spencer Rattler-led Saints, so I don't really put a lot of stock into that. But down the stretch, they lost to the Lions, they beat the Seahawks, beat the Saints, lost to the Vikings, lost to the Bears, and now lost to the Eagles. So it was really, really tough ending for the Packers the way the game was played. And they're going to have a lot of questions answered this offseason because now it is time to really go into the Jordan Love contract, the 4-year, $220 million contract, $55 million per year. And he's coming off a game in which he threw 3 interceptions, and the Packers only put up 10 points. Last year this time, they just beat the Cowboys, but last year this time, it was a bad interception against the 49ers, but you know what? They're a very young team. They're fine. This was the year to go through the growing pains. And it's a tough situation for the Packers that they're in right now because there was a lot of talk this offseason. And there was one tweet that's kind of went viral recently. It was somebody that works for, I want to say ESPN, said that out of any quarterback in the NFL aside from Patrick Mahomes, this was back in August, that Jordan Love is the next quarterback they would take. And it's obviously on nights like tonight, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough sledding. Vikings, please win tomorrow. I agree. Don't care for the Ravens, but it would be nice to see Lamar finally get over the hump. Could not agree more, Jacob. David, appreciate the super chat. Who are my top 10 NFL players of all time? Love your content from Ireland. Very humbling. What made you become obsessed about football and start the channel? Really, just tough thought here in terms of starting the channel. I said to myself one day, I was in college, and it was actually in like the summer semester, or in between like the spring and the fall. And I said to myself, okay, this YouTuber, that YouTuber, nobody in particular. It's not like I was looking at other NFL YouTubers at the time. I kind of just said, this guy had to start out with 0 subscribers, whether they had 10,000 at the time, 200,000 at the time, 1 million, it didn't matter. This guy had to start out at 0. So let's just call it what it is. I was working at FedEx at the time. Shout out FedEx, Purple Promise for anybody working there. I basically said to myself, I don't want to do this till I'm 60. Not that that's a bad thing. I just didn't want to. I was working at FedEx Freight, so I was out like freezing on the docks at 3 a.m. driving a forklift, right? So I just said, I don't want to do this my whole life. So I just said, let's just give it a try. And there's a lot behind the scenes that people don't talk about. But it was, that was the reason. Now, top 10 NFL players of all time, it's going to be heavily quarterback based. Tom, Peyton. I'm not going to include somebody else right now that's playing, that's a 3-time champion, that's a 2-time Super Bowl MVP. But I would definitely like to add in some of the other greats like Lawrence Taylor for sure, Reggie White. I'm trying to think of the other ones off the top of my head. That's Walter Payton, Barry. They're up there for sure. But Deion Sanders would, no. Jerry, did I say Jerry? Did I say Jerry? That's really disrespectful if I didn't. Jerry, Randy. I think that answers a lot of it. Mike Glennon, top 2. He's certainly up there for sure. Rich, appreciate the super chat. If Commanders can do it, Raiders can too. Raider Nation for life. Good luck. Good luck, Rich. Hopefully you get Ben Johnson. I'll say this. Ronnie Lott, good call. Good call. Oh, chair fell. I'll be right back up. I will say this, by the way. If you guys are wondering, if I want as a Vikings fan, I want what makes Ben Johnson happy. He wants to go to Las Vegas. I'm all for it. He wants to go there. I'll help pack his bags. I want what makes Ben Johnson happy. He wants to go to Chicago. Great. I'll help him. He wants to go to Jacksonville. Even better. No state income tax for Ben Johnson in Florida. I want what makes Ben Johnson happy. So, I want what makes Ben Johnson happy. So, if he wants to drive to Jacksonville, I'll personally drive the U-Haul. I want what makes Ben Johnson happy. UPS better than FedEx. Sorry, football analysis. And people even liked it. People even liked it. Oh man. But anyway, that was the whole story. Let's see here. Texans' future still bright. 100%. Yes. Did I speak about Tomlin? We have a whole video coming out on Wednesday, so I don't want to spoil the entire thing. But what do you do? That's going to be the question that I ask. What do you do? Do you continue to go 9-8, 10-7, losing the wild card round? Guys, this is 6 straight postseason losses. 6 straight postseason losses. All right, you're Savala, always in here. You're going to disagree with me, but I think the Rams have a good shot at winning over the Vikings. They definitely do. No, I don't think... I think the Vikings are going to win. I will say that. But I don't think it's going to be 31-10. Vikings embarrass them. No, I don't think it's going to be that at all. They definitely have a good shot. For sure. All right, let's see here. Am I forklift certified? I haven't worked there in... I quit before COVID, so I don't think that still is 5 years later. So I don't think I'm still forklift certified. You have to ask FedEx. I don't think I'm still forklift certified. All right, let's see here. Sticker / super chat. I don't know. It's from Speedy. I never the super chat specifically come up I don't know if this is. I'll call it a super chat. Don't forget to put Jaden Daniels on that list. Good call. Definitely good call. Do you think the Ravens are unstoppable? They at times are. I would say they played 3 really good quarters against the Steelers. That third quarter was to be forgotten, but quarters 1, 2, and 4 were awesome. They were awesome. So the Ravens can definitely be unstoppable at times. He's staying in Detroit. You know what? Look, Ben Johnson, he has an opportunity. Whatever makes Ben Johnson happy, I want that for him. Hopefully it's Jacksonville and he turns Trevor Lawrence's career around. That would be great for Ben Johnson. Bills Vikings Super Bowl. I'd be very surprised, John. I'd be very surprised. I think we have to talk about Tomlin. I agree. Tomlin is part of the problem for sure. Pat, appreciate the super chat. Do you think the Bears are the best situation for Ben? Somebody actually asked me that recently, and I responded with this. I think Jacksonville is the best situation for Ben because stipulation, Trent Baalke goes and Ben Johnson gets to pick his GM, and that's part of the stipulation. So if Trent gets to have a say in the GM and it's not Trent Baalke, then I think Jacksonville is the best situation. But because Mike Vrabel has been hired now, you're looking at the AFC South where there's a tremendous amount of questions around Tennessee and Indy. And Houston played a great game against the Chargers. Great game. Credit where it's due. But that wasn't a team that was a 13-4 team that just ran the table. I mean, Houston also lost to the Titans this year. Yes, they beat the Bills way back in week 6 or whatever, but the Texans are not a perfect team. They played a really good game against the Chargers. That's not the team that shows up every single week. So you can go to a division, that's the AFC South where you have the Colts and the Titans and a team that's hot or cold in the Texans, or you can go to the Bears where you have the Lions every single year that you're going to have, the Vikings who just had 14 wins with Sam Darnold and a great head coach in Kevin O'Connell, and the Packers who, tough year, but they still won 11, they still won double-digit games. The Packers are never going to be a 5-12 team unless there's major injuries. So I would argue that the Jags are the best situation for Mr. Ben Johnson. All right. Rams not scoring more than 18, we'll see. Is Stroud better than Young at this point in time? That's a tough question. Bryce played really well at the end of the 2024 season. Very happy for him. I would say CJ is probably better at this point right now. But the offensive line for CJ was really bad at the end of the 2024 season. And CJ's receivers, even with Nico Collins, is better than what Bryce has. But it certainly hurts CJ to have multiple receivers down, and we wish the best for Tank Dell and Stephon Diggs in recovery. But I would say right now I'd prefer CJ. Do you think there's a chance the Lions retain both coordinators? I'd be surprised, personally. I'd be surprised. All right, let's keep it rolling here. All right, super chat from Wavy. Appreciate it. I mean this with all due respect. Vikings are overrated. Darnold isn't a real quarterback. I got Rams tomorrow night. Go Ravens. Okay, so I like the Vikings stink. Sam Darnold's overrated. He's not a good quarterback. Go Ravens. If I had to guess, I'm a Marylander. If I had to guess, Wavy is from Baltimore. Like not just because he's go Ravens, but if I had to guess, that extra he's definitely from Baltimore. If I had to guess, and by the way, the Ravens fans last night that were chanting "F the Steelers" that you could clearly hear on the broadcast was Baltimore. I love Ravens fans, man. And then shout out Stavros, if you guys know Stavi. There's something more I trust about Flacco. That is an all-time video, by the way. I do want to see Wavy. I'm from Baltimore. Love it. Shout out Jimmy's Seafood. Shout out Jimmy's famous seafood, man. Let's see here. How do you think the Lions fare without Ben? Well, he's still there for now, but they're still a really talented team no matter how you slice it. Whether it's Ben Johnson, whether it's... Give me a second here. Whether it's Luke Getsy, they're still a really talented team. They still have Jared Goff, who's played phenomenal over the past couple of years. They still have Jameer. They still have Sonic and Knuckles. They still have Amon-Ra St. Brown. They have Jameson Williams, Sam Laporta. The Lions are a juggernaut offensively. They are a juggernaut offensively. So I'm fine with them. Stavros Halkias, that's what's up. Yep, good call. Let's see here. Last time I was in Baltimore, it was 110 outside. I've been in Baltimore when it's hot, and whenever the heat is reflecting off the buildings, it's tough. It is tough. All right. Let's see here. Jimmy's is so good. 100% is crab cakes and football, baby. That's what we do. That is what we do. And I actually have a crab cake down in the fridge. I might have that tomorrow. Not at 12 at night, but that's maybe tomorrow. We'll talk. We'll see. All right. Only good thing in Baltimore or the Orioles. Shout out my boy Gunnar Henderson, baby. We're hopefully going to put up more than one run in 2 games in the postseason this year. Thoughts on Packers injuries? Could it have changed the outcome? I think they were going to lose regardless, personally. It may have been a 1-score game, but Jordan Love throwing 3 interceptions. The one was really, really bad. And then I know the Packers fans would want the non-call at the very first play, but I thought the tone was set from the beginning. I mean, the Eagles had 70% of the points that the Packers scored in the first 2.5 minutes of the game. It was 7-0 and they only scored 10. It was I just don't think the Packers at the state they were in were going to go into Philly and win, personally. That's just me. Chop, what video? What video are we talking about here? Orioles hurt me this past postseason. It was tough. Shout out Cedric Mullins for at least I'm pretty sure it was Cedric. I think it was Cedric for the only run of either of the 2 games. Orioles are having a weird offseason. I'm looking forward to watching them. Am I still going to the game? I'm not going to the game. If I was going to the game, I would not be at the studio. For anyone who does not know, I was, first off, let's just real talk for a second. The wildfires and people's lives effectively being destroyed are way more important than my dumb self going to a game. Let's just get that out there. But I was going to go to the Vikings-Rams game at SoFi, but it got moved. So I was going to go to that game, but it is what it is. There's going to be future games to go to. There's more important things than me going to a game. But I was going to go to the game, but I did not. I'm not going to the game tomorrow. Let's see here. Should Bowles be fired? We're only about a half hour after the game at this point. It's about 45 minutes after the game. I would say yes, only because I think that's a decision that they're eventually going to come to. And I feel like if you are in a position like that, where guys' careers are on the line. And this is already a very short field in terms of your career. The average NFL career is 3 seasons. If you know the answer of the question, that is he eventually going to get fired? Yes. I'm kind of a believer that, make the decision now rather than wait a year, 2 years, and hire Liam Cohen while he's still in the building. I think that could be a big regret for the Bucs if they choose not to hire. Imagine if they choose not to hire Liam Cohen. Love all your videos, but the photos bring out the OCD. I have something that will replace the photo soon. Don't worry. It's I'm not going to spoil. It might be up tomorrow. We'll see. I'm not going to spoil, but you'll see. All right. Let's hear. Vikings win. Are you taking a hike to Philly? Probably not. No, because honestly, no, because I want to watch Ravens Bills. So if I go to Philly, I live like a couple hours from Philly. No chance I'd be able to make it back in time, especially with the traffic getting out. There's no chance. And I want to watch that game, so no chance. Speedy, appreciate the super chat. Watching Love and Hurts today makes me wonder how people question Brock Purdy getting paid. If Love, Hurts, and Trevor can get paid, then he should too. I'm a Brock Purdy fan. I like Brock. Brock has what I think is one of the most underappreciated aspects from a quarterback in their game, and that is I call it scoot. Other guys call it acceleration, mobility within the pocket. I like to dumb it down to just scoot. And what I mean by that is you have an edge rusher coming, you have one way out, you have to step up and out to get out of the pocket to extend the play and to keep the play alive. Brock does a really good job at that. He has a lower pressure to sack ratio than other quarterbacks, substantially, and he does a really good job of keeping plays alive while rarely hindering the team. And I think he does a really, really good job of that when it comes hell or high water. So I'm very much that Brock should get paid. Thoughts on any Ole Miss draft prospects? Princely's good. I like Princely a lot. Really, really good. Trey Harris also really solid. Like his game. But I love Princely Umon-Mielen. He had a really good year for them, and I like him a lot. His ability to game change is unreal. Also, his pocket presence would agree with that. What if I buy you a ticket? Daniel, please do not buy me a ticket. That doesn't change that I still got to travel to, no, don't. Please do not. That does not change. I would prefer to, honestly, because here's why, by the way. I think they're going to lose, and then I'd have to sit there and endure the loss in person, and probably we can have a civil discussion here. Probably also have to deal with Eagles fans dogging me as a Vikings fan on the road at the link, because I wouldn't show up wearing like a Saquon jersey. I'd show up wearing a Justin Jefferson jersey, and it's just not something I want to go down. So I appreciate it, but don't. The Night Shift, appreciate you. What's up, man? I always see you comment Eclectic Divergent. I do always see the comments on the normal weekly recaps, on the recaps that where I get up at 6 a.m. and I read the comments, and I see you. So I'm glad you're enjoying it. All right, Bo Nix, pretty promising. The hit he took on that TD throw earned my respect. Bo's a solid player. He had 33 total touchdowns. I liked him a lot. All right. Favorite channel, appreciate that, Sir Mel, Western Maryland. I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to get too much into specifics, Mel, in terms of that, but I'll just say Western. David, appreciate the super chat. Who are the 3 best players in the playoff non-quarterback? Let me think for a second. I feel like Saquon and Derrick Henry have to be the top 2. That's fair, right? Both are Offensive Player of the Year candidates for sure. Those two. I mean, if we're going to go offensive line, Lane Johnson's certainly up there. Panay's up there. Non-quarterback. Hutch would. There's a chance Hutch comes back for the Super Bowl, so Hutch. Chris Jones definitely, though. He's definitely up there. But that's those would be up there for sure. Truly one of the best football channels. Appreciate it. Appreciate that more than you know, honestly. Worst key player left in the playoffs. I'm biased, but Brandon Stevens scares me. Definitely fair. Gibbs is also up there. Good call. Saw your video on the mock draft, but what do the Browns do this year at quarterback? I think there is a non-zero chance, and there's going to be a lot of discussions about this offseason, obviously. And we're going to discuss it a lot on the channel, by the way. And my thoughts right now are there's a non-zero chance that they call the Falcons and say, obviously, you know our financial situation with Deshaun Watson. He re-ruptured his Achilles. And I don't know the full details, like full transparency. I don't know the full details right now around Deshaun Watson's contract in terms of what they could clear off the books money-wise. I don't know that right now on Wild Card night at midnight, 3 days after Deshaun re-ruptured his Achilles. All of that to say, I think there's a non-zero chance that they call the Falcons and basically say, like, look, if somebody was trading for a 37-year-old Kirk Cousins with that contract, they'd probably give you a 6th-round pick and hope that you take the money off the books. But since we're the Browns, we have this awful contract. We'll give you a 5th-round pick, maybe a 4th-round pick, and you give us a 6th back for Kirk, but you keep the contract. So I think there's a chance that would happen. Kirk is one of the best options I think they could do at this point. All right, Con Creature, appreciate the super chat. Assuming we get Ben Johnson, what should the Raiders do at quarterback? Go Raiders. Okay, first off, that is a big assumption. That's a very, very big assumption. That is, I don't think you're going to get Ben Johnson, but the Raiders, and this is without like looking too deep into the cap situation, because I know they're going to have Max on the books. They're going to have Colton Miller on the books. They're going to have Christian Wilkins with a heavy contract. They're going to have a couple of really heavy contracts on the books. It's got to be a bridge quarterback. You're probably not going to have a Sam Darnold type year, whoever that quarterback would be, but Sam would be one, Jameis would be one. You're getting a bridge quarterback for 1 year so Ben can get his quarterback of the future. Now, if you can land Sam Darnold and Ben can get that same type of play out of Sam Darnold, that would obviously be the best situation by far. All right, let's see here. Top 2 Not Too Football channel. Appreciate that, Daniel. Appreciate that more than you know. No clickbait crap. Always have real conversations about the NFL. Appreciate that. We have a video tomorrow, by the way, on the Miami Dolphins coming out. So for everyone in here, get excited. Set your calendars. Noon Eastern. 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock Eastern. Noon sharp. And the plan right now is to also be live after the Vikings-Rams. We'll see, though. We will see. All right, let's see here. You know him first comment. Appreciate that, AK, as always. As always. Joe Brady, head coach. I'd be pretty surprised. I think it's going to be one more year. Matt, appreciate the support. If you guys are enjoying, by the way, if you want to drop a like, would help tremendously. We're at 257. Let's get it up to 3. I'm going to take a quick swig of water. Gotta hydrate, fellas. That is always definitely a big one. Gotta hydrate. Mark Davis will listen to Tom Brady on whoever they hire for their GM and head coach. That wouldn't be a bad plan, considering what their plans have been over the past 20 years. Wouldn't be bad. All right, let's see here. Any chance the Giants don't draft a quarterback and wait for Arch? I would say very slim, mainly because Brian Dable and Joe Shane are on the hot seat. Unless they get somehow Geno Smith, Sam Darnold. Sam's going to be brought up a lot, by the way, this offseason. I know I've said him for the Raiders, for the Titans. Well, not the Titans because they're the number 1 pick, but Sam's going to be brought up a lot. But it's a lot. It is a lot. It's a very slim chance I think the Giants don't draft a quarterback because their general manager and head coach are on the hot seat, and when they're on the hot seat, it really doesn't matter what happens after, because if they're not there to make the picks, if they're not there to develop the team, it's not going to be their problem because they're going to be out of a job. So a lot of the times you see coaches and GMs in their last gasp at saving their job draft a quarterback. That's what the Bears have done several times with Justin Fields, with Mitch. It started with Mitch and then Justin Fields and now Caleb. Joseph, appreciate the super chat. If the top 2 quarterbacks are off the board, the Giants should go BPA and draft Abdul Carter, potential generational pass rusher, and that is a take I 100% agree. Because this applies to the Giants, it applies to the Patriots, not the quarterback part, but the BPA. The Jags at 5, those teams are not good. I think the healthy Jags are better than the Giants and Patriots right now, but especially the Patriots and Giants over the past couple of years. They have had a lot of talent leave their roster over the past couple of seasons. And if you can simply bring in a player like Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, Mason Graham, you have to go for it. I mean, you can't, nah, man, we're good. You know who we're going to draft instead? We're going to draft Jalen Milroe at 3 and pass on Abdul Carter because our jobs are on the line. I hope that doesn't happen. Really hope that doesn't happen. But I agree with what you're saying, though, Joseph. I'm not a huge Kayvon Thibodeau fan. I'm not. Brian Burns, I like Burns. Dexter Lawrence is Dexter Lawrence. But if you can get Abdul Carter and then pair him with Dexter Lawrence and Brian Burns, you're doing good. You're doing good. This is a funny comment here. Wish I didn't miss so much of this stream. My time management is as good as Todd Bowles. I appreciate that you're here now. And it's a good joke. That is a good joke. Do you think the 49ers should move on from Deebo Samuel? I do. Deebo's a unique player because he'll be 29 this offseason, but Deebo's not a normal 29-year-old receiver. Has a lot of wear and tear on his body. He's taken a lot of hits over the years. So I would really argue that he's more like a normal 32 or 33-year-old receiver, and he's limited athletically. He's not that he was ever a Tyreek Hill type player to give you, just for comparison. He was never that guy. But in terms of how he separates, in terms of how he wins downfield, there's more questions with Deebo now than ever, and especially with how his season ended. He was tweeting things like whatever. It was something weird. If 49ers fans know the situation, but it was something like just want the ball or something, and then there was a Twitter community note that said like he dropped the ball when he had the opportunity. It wasn't a good look for Deebo. It really wasn't. Was it fair to fire Ryan Grubb? I would say yes, but the interior offensive line has just been a nightmare for Seattle. So I would say yes, but I don't think it was entirely on him either. Freedom Thinker, I think Darnold is a Viking at 25. Regardless of what happens, you need a full year of healthy McCarthy before making a decision. That's a fair take, and I can respect that. I can definitely respect where you're coming from for sure. I think it's going to depend on the playoff game because I think there's obviously going to be multiple teams. I mean, we are in a 2-quarterback draft class in the first round of guys that will get drafted in the first round of Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. I think Jalen Milroe is, by every definition, a developmental quarterback, and if you start him week 1 of the 2025 season, you're asking for trouble. Not that he can't develop, but just that's not a decision you want to make as a franchise. So there's going to be a demand for quarterbacks this offseason like we haven't seen in several years. So it's going to be interesting for sure. Does pick 4 Joe Milton plus a 4th round get pick 2 from Cleveland? No, I would say no. That actually threw me off there. So pick 4 Joe Milton and a 4th. No, I would say it doesn't. I would say it doesn't personally, but that's just me. My biggest concern for the Vikings tomorrow is the corners, for sure, against Puka and Cooper. I love Puka. I think he's one of the most talented receivers in the league. I'm a big Puka guy, but that's definitely a concern for the Vikings. What is the draft class's deepest position? Great question. Running back. Now, I know there's people that get really annoyed with the word generational in the draft process, and I get it. Not every player that's good is generational. And I've already said that I'm only going to use the word generational twice this year, and it's to describe Travis Hunter because there's not going to be a lot of cornerback prospects that also can probably catch 35, 40 passes a year. And then the running back class, I really do think is generational. There's talent all throughout. It's an insane running back class. So that's the only words I'm going to use generational for. That is the only words I'm actually going to use generational for. Is the running back class and then Travis Hunter because of how unique he is. Taker 610. How close is Milroe to Jalen Hurts coming out? I would say not that close because Jalen Hurts was he had experience at Alabama and Oklahoma and he was fine and Jalen Hurts I thought was a lot more pro ready than Jalen Milroe personally. Now I want to pull up for reference, I just want to pull up a couple of numbers comparison difference, just based on how they were as prospects. So I'll go ahead and answer that one more. I love Cam Scatterbill. I like him a lot too. Really like him. Milroe is a terrible quarterback. He'll play another position in the NFL. I don't know about that, but I'm not a huge Jalen Milroe guy. So Jalen Milroe, for reference here, in 2024, per PFF, threw 16 touchdowns, 11 picks. Obviously not great, but Jalen Hurts he was a much different player. So let's go ahead and let's go back to 2019 for reference here. And I just remember thinking of Jalen as a lot more upside than what we see with Jalen Milroe. And Jalen Hurts in his final year in 2019 had 32 touchdowns to 8 picks. Now, I know the competition isn't exactly the same, given one was in the SEC, one was in the Big 12, but I just thought Jalen Hurts was a much better prospect. All right, let's see. This running back class is similar to the wide receiver class of last year. Good take, Sean. Good take. Do you think Shedeur is a top 5 pick? Worthy? Not mock draft wise, but if you were the GM, would I take him? I wouldn't want to, but he will go in the top 5. Shedeur, I think there's a lot of flaws in his game. I think Shedeur is a limited player, and he's a solid. I think he's a high floor. I think he's a high floor, low ceiling. So I think you're going to get a solid starter that can flash at times, but I don't think you're going to get a guy that Lamar, Allen, Burrow, Mahomes, that tier. Even the tier below that, I don't think you're going to get. So my job was on the line. Yeah, yes, I'd take him, but I wouldn't be thrilled. I wouldn't say I'm a Shedeur hater, by the way. I just don't. I think people that think he is going to be an absolutely elite quarterback, 33 touchdown rookie season like we just saw from Bo Nix, is not a reality. We'll see, though. Hopefully it works out. But that is going to wrap up tonight's stream. The plan is to be live for tomorrow. So we recapped every game tonight. As always, we always finish with a Q&A. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Please like and subscribe if you've not already. We recently hit 177,000. Appreciate everyone's support. 200 by the NFL draft is the goal. We have a little over 3 months to get there, but that is the goal. So 200 by the NFL draft. Please like and subscribe if you are not already. And that'll wrap it up. So Vikings game technically tonight because it is after midnight here on the East Coast. I am very much looking forward to the game. I'm also very, very nervous. But as always, until next time, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.